I've been messing around a lot lately with Elton John tunes. And of course, that's not an Elton John song. Some of you might know that. But it's a song he made famous. Well, it was sort of a filler track on his, second album. Officially third album, but Tumbleweed Connection. 1970 or 71, one of those two. Probably 70. It probably came out the same year that his first official, really second, came out. Anyway, written by Leslie Duncan, though, and I'm pretty sure it was Leslie playing the guitar on it because her recording of it is virtually identical. That one's called Love Song, and it's a great example of, it's July 11th. And I have to apologize for not making it on the 4th of July last Friday. We had our neighborhood kind of goes nuts on the 4th of July. There's a parade all around the neighborhood, kids on bikes at 10 o'clock in the morning, which meant we had a house full we had like 15 people camped out on our lawn with bagels and coffee and stuff, watching things. And it turned into, it kind of lasted all weekend. But it was a great time with the family. Everybody's recovered from the COVID we came home from Hawaii with a few weeks ago. And sorry I didn't get to the weekly update on the 4th of July. But here it is, the 11th of July, and I'm going to try to give you a 2-week update. Most of what I'm going to talk about, though, is Elton John songs. And then I have a really cool but maybe challenging set of some exercises that popped out of lessons recently this week. So I'll get to the exercise in a minute first. But first I want to talk about that song, Love Song, from Tumbleweed Connection, because it's a really easy finger-picking song. I have it listed as a beginning song, and because it's a really regular pattern. It's not much more, it's even less complicated than Landslide that I would consider, except for the speed of Landslide. I consider it a good beginning finger-picking song. But this one is a really simple chord, one finger. It's essentially E minor 9. And really the first pattern I want people to learn. And then to A7. And 7 sus4. And I realized I just took a look at the tab that I put in that lesson, because this was many years ago, before the gray mustache. And I guess I talked a little bit about Nancy Wilson's version, because Hart must have done this. And Nancy dressed up the guitar part a lot fancier. Used some chords up the neck, kind of like what I just did right there. And it wasn't until this morning I thought, wow, I wonder if I could pick out the melody to that. So I noodled with it a little bit. Because it has great harmony in it. Harmony in thirds when they're singing the chorus. Love is the opening door, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so if you want a good beginning finger picking to look at, take a look at Love Song in our Elton John section. I'm gonna come back to Elton a little bit later, but let me divert first into the couple of new tunes that we had over the last couple of weeks. Well, they're going to segue right back into Elton, but Nesh put up a lesson on Promise Me by Beverly Craven, a tune I was not familiar with, but has some pretty cool stuff in it, and a Roy Orbison tune, Only the Lonely, not to be confused with, well, it has a subtitle too, that not to be confused with, was it The Motels, I think? It had a pretty cool tune. Anyway, enough of that. And then I brought in this one. And this is because I had a student working on it. And, I had other students working on that recently too, and I thought so many of Elton's tunes actually translate pretty well to the guitar. Now, some of them, like that one, does pretty straightforward, but many of his songs have unusual inversions or bass notes or voicings of chords. And an example of that would be, for example, here's I want to pick another one. Oh, the other new Elton tune we had was see if I can fake my way through this. That progression, this is the same as in Love Song, it's E minors and A's. Here's a similarity between this and this. Boy, Breathe does the same thing. Pink Floyd. Anyway, really common chord progression. I'll save analyzing that E minor to A kind of sound. It's the same as in A minor to D. Long time coming, long time gone. Okay, but I digress. I'm running out of time. What was I going to say about... Oh, let's get to the exercises. Enough about Rocket Man and Bennie and the Jets and all that stuff. One student this week had a problem. We're working on descending bass line in kind of like in Fire and Rain. D with C sharp in the bass, B minor. This is not how James Taylor plays it, but it's a common progression. It's the same as the progression in Bojangles, descending bass from C. But if we were doing that, like Time in a Bottle. D with C sharp in the bass to B minor, then with A in the bass. Now the way to get an A in the bass on a B minor chord is you have a couple options. Well, you have ones that's really difficult. We'll not go to that one. One is we can get the A open. The question is now, what do I do with the bar? Because I don't need the sixth string. This bar on a B minor is really only responsible for two notes, the first string and the fifth string, right? So if I need the fifth string open, I could, and I still want to play the first string, I could just shorten the bar down to the first string. And now I've got what I have is B minor with A in the bass. And so that sequence sounds like this. D with C sharp in the bass, B minor with A in the bass, and that usually goes to a G chord. And but if you saw what I just did there on that B minor, I know it's just a little distant here from the camera, but I only lifted off the bottom part of the bar, meaning the part of the bar across the 6th and 5th strings, but I left this part of my finger on the 1st string. And the student was working on this, and every time he was trying to do this, this finger came off. It's like couldn't get that to happen. His brain was sending the thing down there to move your first finger, change the angle of your first finger, and his fingers kept doing this. This finger kept coming off. So that led me to, we started working on a few exercises, but let me talk about the other song that was going on with a student recently. We was trying to get from F to D minor. And it was in, The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. And we were going to the full F in there. I just played the F with a thumb wrap a minute ago. But the chord progression to that is just A minor, then with G in the bass, then to F, and I was skipping a little passing bass note in here because I want him to just practice getting from F to D minor. And there's a common finger there, and this is something you want to look for all the time, is common fingers in chords from one chord to the next. And what he was not doing was hanging on to, what he was not having trouble doing was leaving his second finger down and taking the other ones off to get to the D minor. And that led us into a whole bunch of exercises. Just as a challenge, I said, well, okay, here, try this. Let's start with an easier chord like D. First, be able to lift off any one finger at a time. Pretty easy, maybe. Think about your first finger, or your third finger, or your second finger. Now think about trying to get a pair of them off, like maybe your first and second, or your first and third, or, what have I left out? Second and third. Now, so that is a really good exercise for everybody to try with any chord, is moving your fingers in different combinations. So this is to really kind of increase finger independence. But a secret, maybe not a secret, this shouldn't be a secret, but a tip that can help that. Like when I was thinking about trying to get my first and second fingers off like that, I wasn't thinking this one comes off, this one comes off, this one stays on. 3 instructions. All I was thinking was the one I'm going to hold down, and I'm going to push hard with the one that's going to stay on, my third finger in this case, and I'm going to take the rest of them off. Or I'm going to push hard with my first finger and take the rest of them off. Or I'm going to push hard with my second finger and take the rest of them off. So even like with the F, if I want to leave my second finger down, I think, okay, lock this one down and take everything off. Lock this one down and take everything off. Lock my little finger down and take everything off. Now, you can take this to the next level, like back to F. Okay, I want to try to keep my second and third fingers on and take the other 2 off. Oops, didn't work. Anyhow, that's my tip of the day, is practice some exercises like that to promote finger independence with any chord. Some will be easy. Play an A minor and say, I want to take off my 2 fingers that are right next to each other. Pretty easy. Take off your first finger. Pretty easy. A little harder. Take off your first and third. That was the whole, okay, hanging on to my second. Take off my first and second. Okay, there you go. That's your assignment. Report back to me on how that went. Some of the other Elton John songs that were really fun for me to review this week, Your Song was one of them, because it's a great example of what Elton does all the time with odd bass notes. The opening chord progression is C, F, G, F. But he keeps a C in the bass on all of them. It goes back to F, not F major 7. But, and that C in the bass on a C chord sounds great. On an F major 7, sounds great. On a G chord, is a little weird. And then it comes back to F, and he starts the song, of course. fabulous chord progressions in his songs. Let me see if I can fake my way through this one. You know what? One of the problems that sometimes happens with these is deciding what octave to play the melody in. This is a bigger problem in something like... Now, if I start the melody to Daniel, right? Comes all the way down to an F. Not a big deal. Well, it is a big deal because it's on a bass string. And the chord's D minor. I can't really play a D minor or D minor 7 chord very well with that F. So I think about, well, maybe play the melody an octave higher. Now I come to the D minor. But now it's going to run into trouble. Yikes. Okay. Or I think about changing octaves. Anyhow. So all the little bridges one has to cross when trying to put things like this together. So let me see if I can get a little bit more of a... Got to go to A major there. G, huh? This part's so cool, right? Okay, that is more than I really wanted to get through today, but I hope you enjoyed my little, excursion through Elton John tunes. I got a couple more coming up that I'm working on lessons for. I'll let you guess what those are, or hopefully you'll see them next week. Regardless, I will be back next week. I'm not going to skip another week after the 4th of July derailed me. See you then.